This episode of Anime Abandon has been edited to meet YouTube's Content ID standards. To see the unedited version, follow the link below.
One of the oddest things about anime dubbing, to me at least, is its adherence to voices with higher registers. This has a lot to do with anime characters often being on the younger side of the age spectrum, and also the cute overload culture that seems to permeate the entire industry. You can also make an argument that it's also a Japanese thing, considering nearly every Japanese actress in anime has a voice that can double as an air siren. Are you still wondering why I prefer the dubs? Hell, it doesn't even stop with the female characters either. Have you listened to the original dub of Goku doing the Kamehameha? He sounds like a goddamn witch. I understand that they kept the original actress that played Kid Goku, Masako Nozawa, mainly for nostalgic reasons when they first aired Dragon Ball Z, but I simply can't get behind that decision. If you love her adult Goku, more power to you. But if you're gonna try and convince me that she doesn't sound like a dying cat, then you're just wasting your breath. Still, it's not like the entirety of anime is staffed only with shrill actors and actresses, as some have made their mark on the industry by being the diametric opposite of Greg Ayres. Some of the names that immediately pop into mind are staples of the industry. Steve Bloom, Richard Epcar, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, but one name, I believe, has gone unnoticed for too long, and it belongs up there with the greats. The man with a voice that can only be attributed to a third testicle, Tom Weiner. And believe you me, you have heard his voice. Ever seen Ghost in the Shell? He was the puppet master. Ever seen Digimon? He was Devimon. I know you've seen Street Fighter 2, as he was M. Bison. The guy was even Master Vile in Power Rangers.
I am a living, thinking entity who was created in the sea of information.
This man was the villain of your childhood, and it's about damn time we showed him some respect by looking at an anime that's not very good. Soul Bianca: The Legacy is one of the more interesting anime to be showcased on the show. Not so much for its content, rather for its history. The 6-episode OVA was a reimagining of another OVA simply titled Soul Bianca. Despite sharing a name, the two stories are treated as separate continuities, which is made even weirder by the fact that the first series was never finished, stopping after 2 episodes and then slowly fading into obscurity. The original series was never given a DVD release here, since only one of the episodes ever got a dub due to lack of money/interest. Beyond its shaky beginnings, Soul Bianca: The Legacy is a deeply flawed and imperfect anime, swinging erratically between imaginatively realized and self-important pretentiousness. The story follows a band of all-women pirates who happen to find a stowaway girl named Mayo on their ship, the Soul Bianca. The girl tells the pirates that she's looking for her parents and that they may be somewhere on Earth, which has been cordoned off and is regarded mostly in legend. So, since kidnapping seems like a thing pirates do, they shove off and head towards the home world, all the while being pursued, sort of, by Tom Weiner's Gunter.
This is
the planet of dreams, the mother of all life, a magnificent blue diamond to be safeguarded. This is Earth.
Earth.
The Holy Land, the only place in our universe upon which life was bestowed.
The series is basically an episodic race to Earth, with each of the 4 women having their own standalone story along the way. Who are these 4 women? April, the more or less leader of the gang. Feb, the femme fatale lush. June, the biggest cunt in the galaxy. More on her in a moment. And Janny, the tomboy muscle. All 4 are... Wait a minute. Janny, Feb, April, Mayo, June. Oh, you sons of bitches! Yeah, Soul Bianca is filled with little touches like that, moments or details that seem kind of clever, but don't have any real impact one way or another on the story or setting. One of the more distracting details is that for some reason or another, characters randomly speak in Spanish.
Ah, by the way, there is someone who desperately wants to obtain this particular piece.
Fine, then let him bid for it. If he offers uno at the auction,
Dos. That's what we bid. And if he counters with tres,
Then cuatro.
Sí, lo mismo. Muy bonitas y deliciosas. Me gusto mucho. Dame un beso, chicas. ¡Cállate! ¡Estúpidos pendejos! ¡Locos!
¿Qué pasó? ¿Los mexicanos dominaron el mundo? ¿Por qué no escucho a Fox News cuando tuve la oportunidad? I mean, the whole China taking over a large quadrant of the futuristic culture in Firefly I get, since China is a superpower nowadays, so Chinese culture flourishing isn't so far-fetched, but Hispanic culture? It just seems so random, and if it weren't for the visuals, there wouldn't be any tangible connection. Which actually brings me to one of the anime's strengths, its art direction.
What the? My god.
That shit be pretty. I mean, yes, a good chunk of the more elaborate animation is CG, but unlike shows like Blue Submarine No. 6, the CG isn't used in place of hand-drawn scenes. It's used to accentuate the traditional animation. Just soak in this gorgeously realized tableau, for instance. You can frame this and hang it in a gallery. With all of these lush visuals and scenes, it's such a shame that the story itself is so poorly thought out. Besides the arcing plot I mentioned earlier, the story segues into small vignettes between all four women, and these vignettes often revolve around, well, feminism. I mean, when your cast is made up entirely of women, it's kind of an unavoidable subject. One would hope, however, that they would tackle the subject with a little bit more finesse than Soul Bianca does. Remember back when I was talking about the crew and I described June as being a cunt?
I have to confess that I misled you. I could have told you there's nothing of value in these ruins.
Shut up already! I can't stand passive old-fashioned women like you! Ugh.
Okay, context time. June, along with Mayo, are inside an abandoned research station on the pretense that there is a valuable artifact tucked away. The station was modeled to be an allegory after Dante's Divine Comedy. After getting to the center of it all, or heaven, they find a hologram of the central AI that has been controlling the lab for centuries. She mourns for the fate of her husband, who was driven to drink after his and his team's failure.
Eventually, the two of us were left here alone. It quickly became painfully obvious that we couldn't operate the plant by ourselves. He resorted to drinking, and with each drink, he grew violent. I was so lonely. It was all my fault.
Is there a point to this?
What kind of an insane asshole do you have to be to hear that story and respond with, "Too long, didn't read, get to the point"? Actually, now that I think about it, June's voice sounds familiar.
If you live for a very long time, then the chances are that you'll end up alone. You're too young to understand, Mayo. Just don't grow up to be someone's idea of a stereotypical woman.
He's in love with someone else, but I don't hold it against him, and I want to continue liking him this way.
Wow, what range! She can play everything from insufferably wimpy to insufferably bitchy! June's whole deal is that she's a gynoid of some sort that April came across one day being kept in some kind of pod. You could try to make the connection that because she was made with the intent of being a pleasure bot, one assumes, that she chafes at the notion of women acting how men think they should act. But since the anime never makes it clear what she was created for or why, this notion isn't grounded at all in the story. It might as well be headcanon for all the mental gymnastics one must do to arrive at that conclusion. However, I have an inkling as to why this is here in the story. To me, this screams of being a leftover idea from director Hiroyuki Ochi's previous anime, Armitage the Third. In fact, there are a lot of themes that Sol Bianca and Armitage III share, not the least of which are feminist issues. Armitage handled feminism like nitroglycerin, treating it as the explosive issue that starts the entire conspiratorial plot. Here, it's treated more lazily as character background. When the crew stop off at a planet whose entire police force is cash only, Janny winds up tangling with a psychic psycho, who has a murder boner for their newly minted leader.
The parade to honor our new president, a woman graced with beauty and intelligence, is about to begin.
But isn't there a threatening situation going on behind the scenes at this moment? And is there enough security to handle it?
True, an incident. Oh, it looks like the president's finally boarding the limousine.
In any event, she's certainly popular.
I'll say. She's responding to the crowd with waves and smiles.
I can't decide if this is supposed to be satire or not. I mean, with the way those reporters were talking about the president, it feels like we're watching a Paul Verhoeven movie. But if that's true, what are they trying to satirize? That a female president would only serve to highlight how much of a figurehead they really are? That smiling and waving are their only solutions to real-world problems? Well, that notion falls apart later in the episode when she reveals that she is ending the private police force. And this is the only scene in the entire series that has this sort of tone to it. So, I guess it's just a weirdly written and performed scene. There are many frustrating points to Sol Bianca, but one of the worst is that it refuses to address the themes and ideas it brings up. A newly elected female president? We could explore the social concepts and history that would lead towards a momentous occasion like this, or we could have a terrorist take over the Sol Bianca to try and take out the president because he has mommy issues.
When you see females in power or women who talk about ideals, you lose your mind. Whatever would cause you to have such little faith in women?
Quiet, you!
This is all the result of just one woman you felt betrayed by.
Shut your mouth!
Your hatred stems from being abandoned by our mother when we were young!
Hey, this happens to be a planet where the police force are utterly useless, so citizens have had to arm themselves for protection. Could we use this opportunity to create a commentary on gun violence and crime?
Some think that guns create crime. Yeah, but there's more to it than that, right?
Nah, let's just have a side character bring it up in apropos of nothing, then refuse to answer the question that we asked! Ah! It feels like the show is attempting to be high-minded and ambitious, what with its artful direction and theme, but because the show is so aimless and non-committal, it just deflates in on itself. And poor Barbara Goodson. She brings her trademarked gravitas that's been her game since the mid-80s, and her presence is just wasted on weird bits of dialogue like this.
This'll help keep you warm.
You're a lot like a guy, but this is still pretty nice.
You sound disappointed that I'm a woman and not a man. You're gay, aren't you?
It isn't like that at all. I used to have a younger brother, you know.
A younger brother?
Yeah.
I was right. You're a homosexual.
Sure. I would love to know the thought process that went on in Janny's mind to make that connection she just blurted out. Because he has a younger brother that I think she assumed slept closely with him, he must be gay. What model of gaydar is she using? I suggest she pick up the Homometer XK480. That puppy can sniff out a gay in the middle of a NASCAR race. Ultimately, though, the biggest problem that Sol Bianca faces is that the main story has no impact on the viewer, and that's because no one seems to know what any of the antagonists want, Gunter included. I hate the fact that the actor I'm trying to honor is playing a role so deeply broken and who drags the entire anime down with him. Make no mistake, Tom is his usual awesome self here, and nothing I say about the character is his fault. Got it? He did his best with the weak material given to him. He was better in nearly anything else he was in, but he still comes out no worse for wear. But back to the issue at hand. Who is Gunter? Well, he's a military man who hunts down relics and remnants of the Earth's past, which he views as a sacred place. In fact, that is how he first comes across April during a skirmish over who will gain possession of a special pistol. But this initial encounter is less a continuing theme of Gunter's, and more a clumsy way of involving him in a firefight that doesn't really go anywhere. For the rest of the series, he mopes around space, chasing the space pirates, with no clear goal of his own. He takes a date rapey turn by meeting Feb at a bar, getting her drunk, and then abducting her.
Come on, take these off. Is that how you get off? By screwing women who can't move?
You don't know what it is to live? I've grown quite fond of you.
Yes, after having one drunk conversation with you, after I've been chasing you and your friends all across the galaxy, I've grown quite fond of you. Woman whose name I probably don't know. Worse still is that Gunter's lack of characterization in Endgame feeds and exacerbates the problems with the main cast. Feb here relents after she realizes that she isn't really living, just following the tail of a comet that is April, and when they attempt to rescue, she winds up pushing them away and retreats back to Gunter. Like, was this part of Gunter's plan? Randomly walk into a bar where she's drowning her sorrows, push this sort of manipulative power play on her, and then reel her in, just to pull back the curtain about the true fate of Earth? Yeah, it's revealed that the Earth has long since been dead, but oddly enough, that's not important at all. No, really, this whole quest to get to Earth doesn't amount to anything, since it's revealed that Mayo's parents are dead and her only living relatives offer to take her in, but she winds up staying with the pirates. Then, out of nowhere, this other military guy swoops in and steals the Soul Bianca, claiming that the ship belongs to Mother Earth.
Listen to me, my long-laboring members of the Terrafleet Army. Our efforts strong with only one desire in our hearts. Our shared desire to retrieve the alluring ship of the sun. We fight for what belongs to Mother Earth. We fight for Mother Earth and what is hers!
This motivation makes absolutely no sense for many reasons, but chief among them is that we never find out what they intend to do with that ship. Yeah, they say that the ship is the Earth's and claim it in her name. And that's it. There doesn't seem to be any motivation other than that, so the only real danger comes from the fact that our heroes are in peril with no greater stakes than that. This might have been okay if any of the women had strong personalities that the audience can attach to, but April is just your typical bragging, swashbuckling space pirate. Feb is absolutely useless and has no presence in the story other than to endanger herself. Janie is the wild card that needs to be there to shuffle the deck, and June is just awful. Plus, let's not forget that this guy shows up out of the blue, ostensibly to be the end boss of the anime. So how much investment can we realistically place in this? Because we know so little about everyone and everything, how can we even begin to care about what's going on? You might make the argument that we don't need to know every detail about these characters or the ship to enjoy the space battles in action, and you would be right in a lot of regards, as they are simply stunning to watch. But those scenes make up a relative minority of the total runtime of the show, and when the pendulum swings back to character moments, it always falls flat on its face. Why does Mayo have a special connection to the ship? Why does Gunter care so much about the relics of the Earth when he knows that the Earth is a lie? Hell, we don't even know what the Soul Bianca is, or how it does any of this seemingly magical light show. And when we finally get to the end of this rock polisher of a narrative, it just ends. Gunter is still alive, and neither him or the pirates feel the need to settle things, even though Gunter did abduct Feb and he still endangered their lives. They just leave each other on the surface of the ruined Earth and go back to pirating. This whole arcing plot just feels incredibly hollow and pointless. The characters are, at best, horribly written, and at worst, detestable human beings. The story's all over the place in terms of tone and theme, and has little, if any, regard for narrative follow-through. Again, I would never take away the fact that the show is gorgeous, and has a pretty impressive soundtrack too, and I'll admit that occasionally, there are some pretty well done scenes.
This had been my quest, my castle in the sky. We parted with our families, and lost our friends and loved ones. But finally we arrived here. However, the dream had already ended. Long ago.
But a car with no drivetrain is just a cart. Soul Bianca the Legacy is simply not good. But it's not without merit. I suppose we could look at this review as a way of saying that even the best actors find themselves in some poorly written trash, just like the worst actors. But the best always find a way to come out clean on the other end. And Tom Weiner did just that. Well, with Actor Appreciation Month nearing its end, I think it's time we look at a true actor's actor. Brett Weaver in Gunsmith Cats. Till next time. Long live your Lord High Regent Sage! Long live Benetopia!